You're listening to the Style and Stewardship podcast. So what is stewardship? That is exactly what we'll be talking about in each and every episode of this podcast. As Christ followers, I think it's so important that we manage every single area of our lives to the best of our ability. Not perfectly, but intentionally in our own unique way, and holding on to God's grace every single step of our journey. On this podcast, I'll be sharing thoughts, things that God's teaching me, and transparent talks. My hope is that when you listen, you'll feel equipped, you'll be encouraged, and more than anything, I hope that you're inspired to live out your day-to-day calling in your own unique way. This podcast is for the woman who wants to hear, "Well done." When it comes to living on purpose and living with a purpose and or finding your purpose, I speak about this a lot because I truly believe that it's not something that God has hidden from us. It's not something that God does not want us to know. I do believe, though, that God will not show us every single step. And I do believe that He will not show us some of the questions that we're even asking. Because if you having certain answers will cause you to have faith in yourself, I don't believe that God will reveal it to us. Some of us are already working and walking in our purpose. And when I say our purpose, I mean the unique way that God has gifted us so that we can steward certain aspects of the talents or the resources that He has given us in our very unique lives to do that. That is why this podcast is called Style and Stewardship. It is the way you steward in your unique way that God created you to do. So finding our purpose and living our purpose and all of those things can be a distraction sometimes. And the reason why I say this is because I am speaking from experience. I remember years ago, I was really struggling with, after having my son, and, there are different things it's almost like you get a new life. You get a literal new life with your child, but you get this new life of not necessarily being able to do much the way that you did before. This is the same thing as when two become one flesh, when you are joined together with your husband and you are now a wife and you have yes, you are still you, but there are things that are very, very different in your life now. It's almost like having a new life. When you live a certain way in the world and you do things a certain way in the world and you turn from the things that you know are sin and the things that separate you from a relationship with Jesus, separate you from a relationship with the God who created you, you turn from those things, repent, and ask Jesus to be the Lord of your life and recognizing Him as God and as Lord. You're indwelt with the Holy Spirit. And now you literally are a new creation. You are no longer, just, a person in this world. Now you're a person who is redeemed from it. So we have all of these different ways. And I think that this is where, people start wondering, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? Because many times we have set our focus on what we think our life should be, but it doesn't necessarily line up in our minds with how our lives actually are. So people can believe the lie that they have no purpose or think that their life is purposeless because they don't have this blueprint of saying, this is the goal and this is what you become and all of these other things. This is not actually true. Everyone has the same ultimate purpose, and that is to glorify God, point people to a saving relationship with Jesus Christ, His only Son, because they come to the realization that they are not holy apart from God, and that the sin in their life separates them from God. This is what we kind of this is what I believe we struggle with, is that we think that our purpose is going to look like these specific things when God is looking at the culmination of our entire lives and how that points to his purposes in it. That is to point people to Jesus. So whether or not you know how you are going to do those specific things does not stop you from doing them, does not stop you from glorifying God and pointing people to God. Living a life in such a way that people know who you serve because of your love for them. And loving someone does not mean that you agree with their sin. Loving someone means that you are committed to their good. Committed to their good means that you are committed to pointing them back to this holy God that we are supposed to walk behind and serve. And God tells us how to serve him. We serve him, they'll know us by our love, right? And what we do for the least of these we've done unto him. And you know what I mean? All these different ways God tells us true religion is this: to visit widows in their affliction and to take care of orphans. God tells us what it looks like to serve him and how we can do that in these very specific ways. But in our unique lives, that is how we show up and do these things. For some people, it means that you may have financial resources that God's blessed you with that you can then use to serve other people and to do those things. You may have a specific talent, whether, in the arts or something, and you can do that with excellence to point people back to God. So we can do all of these things in a myriad of ways. And I believe that that's the point. God says that whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, do unto the glory of God. So we can do all things to the glory of God. And that is the point. But we can get really, really tripped up if we start using all of our energy to focus on what that thing is. You can focus on what that thing is, pray about what that thing is, but still serve God whilst you are trying to figure whatever that is out. But figuring that out apart from God just means that you're going to do some things that you're good at. And having purpose is beyond that. We have a kingdom perspective on how we use everything that we have. And that is what stewardship is, because we're just managing what God has entrusted to us and gifted us so that we can carry out the different things that God will uniquely use us to do. Everyone can't be a doctor, everyone can't be a scientist. Everyone can't make beautiful pieces of art. Everyone can't sing. Everyone can't, can't. But it's the things that you can do and the things that God has gifted you to do that you can use to honor him. So that is my encouragement today, is that whatever you do, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, whether you make crafts with your hands, whether you play games with little kids in ways that teach them about science, whether you are an amazing caregiver and you have patience and you have a compassionate heart that you can meet people where they are in the thick of the really, really tough things that they're going through that everyone else can't stomach or handle or emotionally compartmentalize and deal with. Whether you are creating works of art and you are, every time when you make something, you acknowledge that your ability to do this is from the God who created you and created everything. There are so many different ways in our unique ways and specific ways that God has created us to do. That is how you steward well, by doing those things, using those things on purpose. So don't get so caught up in what's my purpose, that you miss doing what you can do today on purpose. So I hope that this is an encouragement to you, a reminder that you are uniquely made and that you are made for the purposes of God. And as long as you are serving him, you are doing what you have been purposed to do. Those little ways that you can do it, that's your style. That's your flair that you put on that thing. And God gave you that specific way and specific talent to be able to do things, because he wants you to, like, all the different and the beautiful colors of this world that God has created. And God has, shown shown his glory in all the things that he has created. God has shown his glory and how he has created you very different. So I hope that this is an encouragement for your week ahead, that you don't focus so much on how you can show up in this world, or how you can show up in this world in the way that you think you should, and instead show up in this world the way that God has created you to, so that you can show the diversity and the magnificence and the glory of God. The color red is great. The color purple is great. The color blue is great. The color yellow is great. All these things are great. But when you put all of these colors together, we see the beauty that truly exists in this world that God created and made here. And that, that right there, that excites me. I'm going to point to the episode that I did about, diversity being a beautiful thing. Even the different things that God has laid on your heart, those things may not stir someone else in this world the way that he may stir you. And that is another way that God shows the diverse way that he wants you to show up in this world, so you can point people to him. So I'm so excited about who God made you and how God made you, because there are things you can do that I absolutely cannot. I am not good at math. I would not be able to, figure out how to create certain things in the world, and to, I look at architecture and I think, man, this person, God gave them this amazing mind to see this vision so they could create this thing in the world. I don't have that. All of these ways, we like to point out all the differences as a negative. And I truly believe that all the things that we are different in are for a purpose, because God is not this one note, God is not so many different layers, and we could live for eternity and never understand and be able to wrap our minds around all that God is and all that God has done. And let that encourage you today, that God knows exactly where you are. He knows exactly what he's given you and gifted you with. And it's just your responsibility to steward that. And that is a one day at a time with his mercy. And you're going to do this thing imperfectly, just like I am. And I just want to encourage you to take all of those doubts with you, take all those insecurities with you, and still do something amazing in this world. Because it's all those little things that we don't think are making an impact that are. So keep making an impact. Decide to make an impact by using and stewarding what God has given you, because he made you for something amazing. He made you to do something amazing. And I just hope that this blesses and encourages you, reminds you and challenges you to use whatever it is that you have for his glory. And I just wanted to say that to you. I hope that this blesses you. Until next time, your life matters. What you do with it matters. So what will you steward well?